Hey guys, welcome back to the Human Condition. This video is another video in our philosophy series, and this one should be a pretty interesting one. It's called "What is Socratic Intellectualism?" And Socratic Intellectualism is a philosophy by Socrates. In this video, I have 5 main topics. Ignorance is the root of evil. No weakness of will. Knowledge is virtue. Motivational intellectualism. And one virtue. So there's 5 main topics for this video. Starting off, we'll talk about what Socrates believed. Socrates had a lot of philosophical beliefs, but one of his number 1 beliefs is that all evil in the world comes from ignorance, which I thought was kind of crazy, but makes sense. So it suggests that all bad things in day-to-day life is due to ignorance. And this I definitely agree with. I feel like this is almost 100% true. Like I agree with this like 90%. He believed people that when they know what is good will always choose to do good. I disagree. The only thing I disagree a little bit is I feel like sometimes people know what is wrong, good, and they still do what is wrong. But Socrates believed no, when people do wrong things, it's because they believe what they're doing is good. So yeah, and it comes from ignorance. So the first topic is ignorance is the root of all evil. It suggests that what causes problems, which you can see like in day-to-day life with like even like minor things like a fender bender, right? When someone cuts you off, it's because they didn't see you. It's a state of ignorance. When someone gets angry, one would argue, and they do something irrational and brutal and harsh, one could say, well, this person knew what they did was wrong, and that might be true, but Socrates might argue they knew what they were doing was wrong, but because they didn't have full knowledge, they let their anger guide them. Socrates would argue, since they acted in the heat of anger, if they were truly had emotional knowledge, they wouldn't have overreacted or got super angry. That's what Socrates would probably argue, in my opinion. He would just be like, well, if you had a higher level of emotional knowledge of your own emotions, you wouldn't let that anger make you lash out, etc. Very different from Plato, who developed it further and said, no, sometimes emotions can override logic. Socrates argued, no, emotions can't override our logic, and that virtue came from knowledge. Number 2 point, no lack of will, meaning basically emotions didn't control you or your desires, is a lack of knowledge. It's kind of like what I said before, when we get angry or in the heat of moment, if we had more sufficient knowledge, we would know getting angry is irrational. Is what Socrates would argue, because if we think more deeply about things, we're less likely to feel our emotions, probably, and then that'll help us get less angry. One virtue, this is the theory that since knowledge is virtue is knowledge, every virtue is combined together as one virtue, being knowledge. And we have to seek that knowledge through trying to get closer to the good. The good is an ideal concept, in essence, of something greater than oneself. Socrates talked about it, and it's a perfect thing. And once we get closer to the good, we become more good, essentially. And we get closer to the good through self-examination, examining the way we live, and trying to become better. We get closer to being good, and through more knowledge, we get good. Get more good potentially, it's suggested. Now number 3 point is motivational intellectualism, and it suggests that since Socrates, whatever we do, we try to do good. When we do bad things, it's not because we're trying to do bad things, it's because what we believe we're doing is justified. That's a better way of putting it. And I think most people agree with this. When they lash out in anger, they're like, I was justified in doing it. But in hindsight, you might think, why did I do that thing? That's a prime example. When we lash out and do angry things, we're not thinking, so therefore it's ignorance. And that's what Socrates would probably agree with that and say, yeah, when you lash out and you're not think, it's a case of ignorance. And in hindsight, after we gain more knowledge over our ignorance, we might be like, that was a terrible thing, I shouldn't have lashed out. I shouldn't have yelled at my bro or my homie. That was unnecessary. It was ignorant. So that is motivational intellectualism is the idea that when we know what is good, we'll always do good. It's just when we have a distorted version of what is good, if we're not attuned to the good, which is an essence of, if we're not attuned to the good, which is Socrates, we get close to through self-examination and knowledge of ourselves, we'll have a distorted view of what is good in life. And then when we have a distorted view of what is good in life, we'll do irrational, brutal things potentially as people, and we'll justify it because we believe what we're doing is good. That's a good way of putting it. If we don't examine the way we live, we can't learn more about ourselves and figure out if what we're doing is actually the good or good. So we'll have a distorted view and we'll do bad things. Some people do bad things because they justify it through a distorted view is that what they're doing is good. Socrates was a very stoic philosopher and idealistic philosopher. He helped lay the groundwork for Stoicism in the future and idealism, in my opinion. So he was very introspective and thoughtful a philosopher, and he helped teach Plato these, which led to eventually Aristotle. But he helped lay the groundwork for idealism and Stoicism, which are two really cool philosophies. Idealism is just basically the mind over matter, and that the mental world precedes or is a little more important than the material world. That's idealism. And Stoicism is belief in one's own abilities and intuition and willpower and controlling emotions. Stoicism. Its ability to being like stoic, controlling emotions, having good willpower. That's Stoicism. Intuition. So Socrates helped lay the groundwork for this. So in conclusion, Socrates was a very important prominent figure in philosophy. He was probably one of the first philosophers, other than Thales, the first philosopher, and he helped lay the foundation for tons of philosophies and philosophers to come. He helped lay the foundation for Stoicism, idealism, which later led other philosophicals to develop empiricalism, logic, and materialism, in my opinion. This is because Socrates was not like Thales, who was more focused on observing the world around him. Socrates wondered not what am I supposed to do in this life, but why am I doing what I'm doing? And it made him very disliked by the people of Athens, Greece, I believe, so much so that they rejected this idea because people back then were so used to doing what they were supposed to do, but never asked why they were doing what they did. And Socrates would ask them, why are we doing this? And they would have no answer, and this made them feel bad. And because they felt bad, they were like, oh, he's saying the truth. We have to, eliminate him. So sadly, he died to his convictions, but this was an important aspect because it inspired his student Plato to further develop the Socratic intellectualism and his ideas of forms, the good, and that virtue is knowledge. However, Plato developed the idea that emotions sometimes can override logic, whereas Socrates were just pure logic, and that emotions can be controlled by logic. So a little bit of difference. Then after Plato, his student Aristotle was more observed the world around them more than themselves, and as Aristotle helped lay the groundwork for empiricalism, logic, and materialism, in my opinion, because he viewed the world around him, whereas Socrates helped lay the groundwork for Stoicism and idealism. Also, one last brief thing. I know I talk about self-knowledge and self-examination, and that's what you're supposed to. That's how one gains virtue, but also you don't have to observe, and it's not really external knowledge. But I forgot to mention you have to have knowledge of other people because one can only know oneself if they know someone else. So also Socrates encouraged open dialogue to figure out other people's beliefs, so you can figure out who you truly are, and then once you do this, you'll know yourself better and what is virtuous, and so will the other person. So know oneself, but also know other people is the other good way of putting it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys again for all the recent support. I really appreciate it. But as always, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.